Lesson 50 today, and as odd as it is, this is one of my favorite things to do. All right, we're going to be asked to graph an inequality. Now, we've graphed inequalities before, like x is greater than 2, or x is greater than or equal to -4. In this case, though, we're graphing a line. So a little slight change to this. First thing is, if we are given an equation in y equals, now I'm going to use equals there in place of the inequality for right now, just to line this up. Y equals mx plus b. If we're given a line that we can just graph it. Not everything that your textbook gives you is in y equals mx plus b form. So we'll show you, or I'll show you what to do in a minute. So if you can just graph this y equals mx plus b, do it. Remember, always plot your b first, and b is where it crosses the y-axis. So in this case, our b is +1. Then our m is our rise over run. From the b, we're going to rise 1, run 2 because it's positive. We're going to rise up 1, go over 2, and there's my point. Now, normally, I would just draw a line. Now, y'all don't laugh at me connecting my dots here, right? However, an inequality changes just that piece. If it is greater than or less than, instead of being a straight line, we have to use a dotted line. If it is greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, we're going to use a solid line. In this case, we have y is less than, so we're going to use a dotted line. And I can't draw a straight line for nothing with this thing. And we know that y is less than. Less means below. So then what I'm going to do is I am going to color in everything less than, I shouldn't have crossed my dotted line, everything less than that dotted line, that is going to be my answer. Let's do another one. All right, we're going to graph this. I'm going to just line up y. What in the world? That is not what I meant to write. We'll line it up. Y equals mx plus b. In this case, b is +4, so that is my point where it crosses the y-axis. Remember, because y goes up and down. My m is my slope. In this case, it's -3/5, so we're going to go down 3, but remember, we always run right. So from the b, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3. We're going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my second line. Now in this case, let me kind of clean this up a little bit. In this case, y is less than or equal to. So less than or equal to, I'm going to use a solid line. If it's just less than, oh goodness, I can't draw a straight line. If it's just less than, it is a dotted line. If it is less than or equal to, it's a solid line. And then, because it can be, basically what you're saying is the value that we're discussing can be anything less than that line. So to show that, I have to color in the whole area that is less than that line. And that's beautiful. That's how this is going to look. So what this says, I can look at this lovely coloring of this graph and know that whatever value I'm going to find is going to be somewhere below the line represented by this information. The issue is going to hit when it's not in y equals mx plus b form. And it's not that it's hard, it's just a little bit more tedious because you have to use a t-chart. Now, that's an R. Oh my gracious. Your textbook on the example picks like 5 different numbers. Listen, pick 3 numbers. I always pick 1, 0, and -1 so that I have a number in every sort of area there. You're going to pick values for x, plug those in and solve for y. So let's say when x is 1, then what I get is plug it in to this equation and solve. And because I have a calculator, I'm going to literally type this in, which I really don't even have to type this in because 1 minus 1 is 0. And 3 times 0 is 0. Don't know why I wrote over there. So my first coordinate I'm going to have is 1, 0, x and y. Then I'm going to use 0. Plug that in. 0 minus 1. 0 minus 1 is -1. -1 times 3 is -3. So my second point is 0, -3. Then use -1. Why? Again, I'm plugging it back into this original equation. And I know I'm working this fast. I'm going to give you guys time in a second to work some. -1 minus -1 minus 1 is -2. 3 times -2 is 6. So my third point is -1, 6. Now I just plot these points. 1, 0 is going to be on the axis. 0, -3 is going to be on the axis. Now I'm going to have to sort of estimate that the -6 is here because it goes -1, -6, which I didn't write down. -1, -6 is going to be somewhere here. Now, again, the reason I had to use a t-chart is because this was not in y equals mx plus b form. Now I'm going to look back up here at what is my sign, and I have a less than, not equal to, just less than, which means I have to use a dotted line. And then because it is less than, I have to color in anything below the line. Oops, I shouldn't have colored over that line, but that's okay. Anything under that line. So that is my lovely picture there. And I can look at this picture and I can say the value I'm looking for is less than, but not equal to, the value of that line. So if you cannot y equals mx plus b it, t-chart it. Pick 3 values. There's no need to pick 5 or 6 numbers. And for real, I always pick 1, 0, -1. Fill that in, get your coordinates, and then plot them. Let's do one more like this. All right, so we can't, this is not in y equals mx plus b form. So let's just make our t-chart. Again, I'm going to pick 3 values for x. I'm going to do 1. You can use whatever numbers you want. I just think these are the most simple to work with. Okay, let me fix that -1. That's going to drive me nuts. Plug those values in for x. So I'm going to have 2, 1 minus 1, which in this case is going to be 1 minus 1 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. So my first point is x is 1. Y is 0. My second one is going to be 0 minus 1. 2, or 0 minus 1 is -1. 2 times -1 is -2. So my second point is 0, -2. Then I'm going to plug in -1. -1 minus 1 is -2. 2 times -2 is -4. So my third point is -1, -4. So let's plot this. 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 2, -1, -4. In this case, though, it's greater than or equal to. And since it's greater than or equal to, I'm going to use a straight line because it's or equal to. Oh goodness, that got crooked. Now in this case, it's greater than, so I am going to color in anything that is greater than, and that is going to be my answer. So if you can, y equals mx plus b it, do so. If you need a t-chart, you can do so. And the reality is, and some of you may have already figured this out, I could distribute that 2 out and get a y equals mx plus b formula. Your textbook teaches you to do it this way, so I wanted to show it to you. And then maybe next time we do this, I'll show you how I would have done it independently without this textbook. All right, your homework, I'm only going to give you a couple of these problems. Excuse me. Don't get bogged down in these. It's kind of strange. Some of my kids struggle with this. So anyway, just remember, if I can graph it with y equals mx plus b, do it. If not, use a t-chart. And if it is greater than or less than, it's a dotted line. But if it's greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to, you have to use a solid line. And then color in up below or above the line, depending on greater than or less than. If it's greater than, you color in above. If it's less than, you color in below. So if you get stuck, shoot me a text, and I will see what I can do to help you out that way.